Hello and welcome to the Sedgwick County ZooCast, where we are inspiring respect and conservation for wildlife and wild places through caring, connecting, and conserving. I'm your host, Emily Bishop, and today on the ZooCast, we'll be sitting down with Zookeeper Micala Teetzen to talk about Pudus. Keep listening to learn how our zookeepers call for our Pudu when they're hiding, when the best time to see them is, and just how small the world's tiniest deer is. So thank you so much for joining us here today on the ZooCast. So if just to get started, you could give an introduction, talk about who you are and what it is you do here at Sedgwick County Zoo.
My name is Micala Teetzen, and I have worked here for 18 years. I started off as a night keeper, so I worked the night shift. Then I was a relief keeper all over the zoo. Then I was a relief keeper just within the Australia, South America mammal section. And then about a year ago, we added a new position in Australia, South America mammals. So I took over that role. So I'm take care of the Pudu 5 days a week, and then also the capybara, the caracal cat, and then I help with lion and painted dog routines too.
So can you talk a little bit more about how you got started working in the South America habitat?
I used to be a relief keeper within our area, so I would, on the primary South America keeper's weekend, I would do her routine for 2 days a week. So it was kind of my favorite of the different routines in the area. So when we added that new position, I said, as long as the capybaras are on that routine, I would take that new routine. So I took over. So that's the first time in my career that I've actually been a primary keeper. I've been a keeper for 20 years at 2 different zoos. And so it's a little different for me rather than floating from routine to routine every day, doing the same thing.
So what is a Pudu?
They are the world's smallest species of deer. So there are 2 different species of Pudu, a northern and southern. Ours are southern. Another name for them is Chilean Pudu. The northern are even a little bit smaller than the southern, so they are pretty tiny. They're about 13 to 17 inches tall and can weigh 20 to 30 pounds. So I try to compare it to a dog, and it'd be like a Cocker Spaniel size, so that's about the closest comparison.
So here at Sedgwick County Zoo, our Pudu can be found at the South America habitat, but what is a Pudu's habitat like in the wild?
Okay, so the southern Pudu live primarily in Chile and Argentina, so the very tip of South America, basically. And it's a very humid, temperate forest, and then also evergreen rainforest, deciduous forest. So they really like the thick brush, low-lying vegetation. So that's primarily what they browse on. So they eat mostly all different kinds of leaves. They don't eat any one certain thing. They just kind of eat a little bit of a variety of foods. They like to be on the edge of thick treed areas is apparently where they like to hang out most.
Yeah. So what role are they fulfilling within their environment?
They do a lot of kind of tunneling in that thick underbrush, so that helps other animals have like escape routes from predators and stuff. So they spend a lot of time maintaining those and darting around and being busy.
Like you said, they are the smallest deer. How does their size play like an advantageous role in what they're doing?
Helps them hide very well in small areas, so they're camouflaged and hard to see.
So our Pudu are allowed to free roam around the habitat.
Yes.
Why is that?
That is just the way the exhibit was designed. So basically, both sides, Australia and South America, have a free range animal. The Australia side has the wallabies that can run anywhere they went to on the public path or hide away in their shelters or in the grasses and stuff. And then the Pudu on the South America side. So when we design new exhibits, we have to take in consideration the animals, the people, the visitors, and the keepers. Kind of you have to balance all those things. So the Pudu are very flighty and secretive, so they wouldn't make a good exhibit animal for a small space where there's no place to hide. So this is a great exhibit for them to be able to feel comfortable and be able to get away from people and stuff. It's not so great for people if they're looking for them and can't find them, but we do have people who regularly see them every time they come to the zoo, so they just kind of know where to look.
Yeah, so that's nice. Like they get the choice of if they want to hang out in the walkways or hide in their, little houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you talk about the Pudu that we have here at the zoo?
So we've got 2 females, Penny and Hammy. Hammy's actual name is Hamel Girl, but we call her Hammy. Penny is 10 years old and Hammy is 11, and they are full sisters. They came to us from the Detroit Zoo in 2015.
So what's like the average age for a Pudu? Like are ours old or are they?
They're kind of middle age. They can live. The longest one on record was 18 years old. 17 is pretty good for captivity. In the wild, 10 years is old. So I mean they've reached that age already. So we do have 2 of them, but currently only Penny is on exhibit. So Hammy has had some medical challenges, so we keep her in the barn area for now, off exhibit, and then she will be pretty soon, hopefully, introduced to the anteater, to the mixed species exhibit, so she'll be visible over there. But as you can imagine, free range in that giant exhibit is kind of hard to medicate. We have to do like regular hoof trims on her, so to be able to catch her up, and then even just getting a good visual on them if they're hiding, it's hard to see their hooves and keep a good eye on them when they're standing in thick bamboo and stuff. And then with all the birds eating their food and them eating the bird food, it's hard to medicate because you don't, unless you're standing there and see her eat it. So anyway, we can better monitor her in a smaller area for now. So
yeah, do you notice like distinct like personalities or behaviors between the 2 of them?
Yes, Hammy likes to hide a lot more. Penny is a little more friendly and will be more visible to people usually. She'll be walking on the path sometimes. Hammy is kind of darker in color, and Penny is more red, coppery, and she has kind of full rings around her eyes, a lighter color, and Hammy's just kind of darker on her face. One way to tell them apart.
So, like you said, they're kind of allowed to go where they want, so they like to hide in the underbrush. And I was just wondering if you have any tips for spotting the Pudu when walking through the South America exhibit.
That is an excellent question. Sometimes it takes me up to an hour to find both of them.
Oh, wow.
So there are 4 different shelters. Only 2 of them are really visible to the public, and Penny does like to hang out in either of those. One's kind of right by her graphic near the capybara exhibit, and one is in front of the Quaddy exhibit. There's a little fenced area, but she can come and go through that fence. So she'll be in either of those places sometimes, but they like to migrate around to new spots all the time. So it is a challenge sometimes to find them, and because we feed them where we find them to try and make sure they actually get their food. So then I have to remember where that food bowl was last time so I can pick it up and move it to the new spot. So especially like on a really hot day, it's kind of frustrating sometimes to be out there trying to find them. But I tell myself I'm glad they're utilizing the whole exhibit rather than just being in the same spot all the time and not moving around. We also do ring a bell. So if you hear this noise, when we're walking around, that's kind of if you come to the bell, you'll get a reward, or kind of like I'm coming into your space. Don't be flighty and run away, because they will, if you spook them, they'll run away. So we use dehydrated apple slices or dehydrated banana slices or some of their favorite treats, or craisins, as a reward for coming, or to try and get her to stand up to come over to a food bowl, because I can't feed her in the middle of the thick bamboo or whatever. So I try and make sure she actually comes over to eat, so before the birds come over and get her food. So
does she usually come when she hears the bell?
Sometimes. And sometimes not. It's kind of like a giant game of hide and seek or where's Waldo or whatever, trying to find her sometimes. They're very secretive, elusive animals. I mean, I have walked up and down the whole giant exhibit like 4 times at least sometimes before I call in the search party to have another keeper come help me find him. I always find him at least once a day, but sometimes that second time is hard. But she does tend to hang out. Another spot she likes to be is kind of in the stream area in the middle of the exhibit when it's really hot. She'll hang out in there or under some of the bird misters area.
Are they social animals or are they primarily solitary?
They tend to be very solitary. And one nice thing about such a big exhibit, especially in the winter, they will kind of each have their own half of the exhibit. And then they latrine kind of in the middle, and that's kind of their like boundary. And so they can tell each other is still there or whatever. And then during the warmer months, they tend to get along and will even be laying next to each other sometimes. But it's kind of funny, since we've moved Hammy off exhibit, Penny has figured out she has the whole exhibit to herself, and she wanders to the other side a lot more than she used to. So she can be all over now. Another interesting thing about them, so in the wild, they spend a lot of time, like in one area can have a little home base nest area where they spend the night or whatever, and they graze, browse around the plants and stuff there, and then they'll move to a new spot after, a week or whatever, and kind of keep moving along like that. And our Pudu, especially Penny, actually kind of does that, where she'll have a new spot, because in the morning when I like to find her where she's laying down, so I kind of know where her spot is, and she's like easier to find that way for a few days until she finds a new spot or whatever, and I have to find a new one. But anyway, I just thought it was neat. That kind of replicates that same behavior that they do in the wild.
So can you talk a little bit about Pudu conservation?
So their status is considered near threatened, and is declining. So the last estimate of population was back in 2016, so that was quite a while ago, but there's around 10,000-ish of them probably. And most of that is due to habitat loss, and domestic dogs or feral dogs will also kill them, or they're hit by cars sometimes too. So
if listeners at home maybe wanted to aid in Pudu conservation, what could they do?
There are just kind of the general things you can do to help with deforestation. So you can always make sure you're not buying exotic woods. Any wood or paper products you get should have a FSC logo on it, and that's like the little check mark with a tree outline. And FSC stands for Forest Stewardship Council. So those items are made from sustainable trees. So basically they can only harvest a certain number of trees from that forest, and and it maintains that forest still as a forest and not clear cutting every tree. So anyway, if that has that label on it, that's certified that it's a good one. There's about 30 soccer fields worth of trees cut down every minute. And so they've lost at least half of their forest area where they used to range in Chile.
We'll be back in a moment to learn more about Pudus. But first, let's hear about upcoming events at the zoo. Follow the White Rabbit to a land of wonder at this year's Wild Lights. Come face to face with one-of-a-kind Asian lantern sculptures. Maybe a Cheshire cat will cross your path, or the Queen's Guard of playing cards. Be the guest of honor at a tea party hosted by a hatter and a hare. Wednesday through Sunday, October 11 through December 17, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tickets start at $15 and are available online or in person. Journey through the Looking Glass at Wild Lights. The great thing about the Sedgwick County Zoo is that it's not just a place with a passion for conservation and education. We also have a passion for community. It's a great place to socialize. So the Sedgwick County ZooCast team took to the streets to ask visitors if they knew what a Pudu was.
We saw it too back there. I saw the sign on the way in, but I don't think I could point one out to you. Kind of looked like maybe a little warthog looking thing.
Do you think a Pudu flies?
Yeah.
Say, I think a Pudu's a bird.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Pudu is, but I don't think it's a bird.
Yeah, some kind of like a small mammal.
It kind of sounds like it might be like a large type of rodent.
A pudu is a miniature deer.
Now we have some questions from the audience, and these questions were all submitted to us through our Instagram at Sedgwick County Zoo. At Liberal Bias wants to know, what do they sound like when they're talking?
Well, they're not really very vocal. They do have a couple vocalizations. According to the internet, they have some high-pitched whistles and barks. I've not really heard those noises too much, but I have heard them make maybe like 3 times ever, kind of like a little soft, short, almost like a goat bleating noise. And then Hammy snorts some, so I can hear her coming before I can see her. Through the bamboo, she'll kind of like stomp her feet and she'll snort as she comes along. So that's kind of the extent of the noises I've heard out of them. They do a lot of communication through olfactory and their scent glands. They have scent glands. Like I said, the latrines kind of communicate a lot. They will rub their scent glands on branches and stuff. So that's the most important communication for them.
At Conservation Chelsea wants to know, how are they related to deer?
They are in the same family, so they're just the smallest species of deer, so they're just all in the same family.
At there's_a_Merkel asks, what is their favorite food?
The dehydrated apples and bananas that we use for training, and I also like watermelon and popcorn, blueberries. They really enjoy blueberries. They like a lot of the diet in the bird bowls. So if the birds like drop food, so that's another good time to see them is after the 1 o'clock bird feeding time. They will sometimes follow around and pick up anything that the parrots are dropping. So
yeah, what does their diet normally consist of besides the fruit treats that they sometimes get?
They get steamed carrots and sweet potatoes, apple, some kale, lettuce, 1 grape, and that works good for putting medications in and stuff if we need to. And then some grain, which they're not big fans of grain. And then we provide, out on exhibit, they can eat as many browse leaves as they want to, but if they're off exhibit, we give them browse or alfalfa.
And finally, at JHawkJD wants to know what the best time is to see a Pudu in the exhibit.
Early morning kind of is when after they wake up and come out, I guess would be good. When it's hot, you don't stand much of a chance because they're hunkered down and they don't come out much, but they usually are out year round. But this last winter, we've kind of started bringing them off exhibit, seeing as they're getting older and they don't have, they have access when the capybaras aren't there to the cappy holding area that has some supplemental heat, but we've started trying to baby them a little bit more, so we bring them into the barn once it gets really cold.
Before Micala and I finish our conversation about Pudus, let's hear about how you can experience more perks when you visit the zoo. Where can you find lions and tigers and bears, oh my? At the Sedgwick County Zoo, of course. Feed a giraffe, ride a train, and learn all about your favorite animal. And zoo members get to experience even more fun. For as low as $80 per person, you get to experience unlimited visits to the zoo, early entry, discounts on special events, and early access to the Sedgwick County ZooCast. Become a member today. Visit scz.org/membership for more information. As an ending note, I have just a few more questions. I was wondering, what is your favorite thing about Pudus?
Probably just working with them and kind of building a relationship. It took a long time to get them to get on a scale. So they're very flighty and distracted and whatever. And so it taught me a lot of patience. Plus, on the exhibit, there's not a flat place, whatever. And so it just, a lot of things had to align to actually get them on the scale for the first time. And again, I was like so excited, but I couldn't, show anything. I'm just, had to be very calm, whatever. I'm like, yep, got her on there. Anyway, one of my favorite thing about Penny is she likes to follow. So I have a wagon that I have all the food in for the different animals. And she likes to follow behind my wagon sometimes, just trotting along, just like halfway through the exhibit, she'll follow me around. So I've got some videos of it. It's pretty cute.
When you were getting them on the scale, why couldn't you like react?
Because they're very flighty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have to like step back and I would throw some food on it. And I mean, they're a lot better now. And I've figured out that they like a board on top of the scale. They don't like to stand on the actual scale itself. Well, originally the scale I had was small and the board was big and it was kind of wobbly. I knew they didn't like that until we finally got a bigger scale. So anyway, and it's a lot of work lugging that scale around and the board around to wherever they might be. And then if the visitors are here or not, and if it's hot or not, I tell you, there's so many variables. So once it finally happens, it's very nice. Most of the animals I try and weigh once a month, but it's not once a month for them. But I was glad I finally have been able to get it regularly.
What is your favorite thing about working with the Pudus?
I mean, I guess I do enjoy the exhibit in general and, you know, the flowers and all the different things. So, I mean, I enjoy, I guess, the challenge of finding them and whatever, and the uniqueness of their exhibit and their environment. I enjoy. It does make it challenging.
But it's rewarding, so it's worth it.
Yes.
Well, those are all the questions that I have. Is there anything else that I didn't ask about that you'd like to comment on?
We have several regular visitors who kind of challenge themselves to find the Pudu every time they visit. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's not possible. I mean, I have a hard time finding them sometimes. And there's kind of an area back, like behind where the waterfall is, that is where one of the shelters is, that she's in quite a bit. And there's no way for visitors to be able to see her back there. But when I have a frustrating day of trying to find them, I kind of try to reframe it in my mind to say, you know, I'm glad they're utilizing every inch of this awesome exhibit. And it's kind of hard to keep that in mind when I am like literally balancing their food bowl like a waitress, because we coat the outside of it in Vaseline to keep the ants from getting in it. So I can't like touch it. So I have to like balance it. And I've got my bell and then I'm like, you know, climbing over fences and, you know, stuff. So anyway, it's a challenge, but rewarding when I find her, and I always make sure I'm pointing them out to visitors that are nearby, because like unless you're looking for it, it's hard to see them. So I point them out and talk about her a little bit. Another thing, one question I regularly get from people is they're concerned as I'm like looking through the bamboo, and they're always asking if an animal is lost or something, and I always have to explain. I'm like, no, she's not lost. I just haven't found her yet, you know? You know, they can be anywhere out here, whatever, but people are like, what are you looking for? You know, they're very concerned.
Thanks for listening to the Sedgwick County ZooCast. This episode was researched, written, and produced by me, Emily Bishop. We'd like to give a special thank you to Micala Teetzen for sitting down and talking with us about Pudus. Thank you to the Sedgwick County Zoo's marketing and communication team. And a special thank you to our zoo members, whose support makes this podcast possible. If you're interested in becoming a zoo member, visit scz.org/membership. Be sure to give us a follow so you never miss when we upload new episodes. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, I'm Emily Bishop, and this has been the Sedgwick County ZooCast.